Federalism versus anti-federalism. Some background for how the parties emerged would be the colonies were part of Great Britain, and Great Britain had the King George, who was very tyrannical and enforced too many taxes and didn't let the colonists be involved in their own lawmaking process, and they didn't like that. So they fought the Revolutionary War and won, and they had to make their own government, and they made the Articles of Confederation, which basically established a confederation where there was a very weak federal government and stronger state governments, but each state government was very different. They had different currency, different rules. Everything was too different and too disjointed between them. So they took representatives from each state in a constitutional congress, and they wanted to revise the articles, but they ended up scrapping the whole thing and writing the Constitution, which made a strong federal government and a bit weaker state governments. The colonists didn't like that so much, or not colonists anymore, but they didn't like that very much because they were still very afraid of the tyranny that King George would bring. They were afraid that the president would have too much power and, tax them a lot and just be much like a tyrant like King George. And the people that supported the Constitution saying, hey, we know this old government wasn't working out. We know we need a stronger federal government just to bring the whole country together. They were the Federalists, and this included Alexander Hamilton, John Jay. They wrote the Federalist Papers, and then the people that kind of feared tyranny were not so inclined to the new Constitution were anti-federalists. Basically, they believed in the Federalists believed in the Constitution. They knew they wanted a larger federal government, and they knew the Articles of Confederation were too weak. They weren't going to keep the country together. The anti-federalists said either, we should just alter the Articles of Confederation or alter the Constitution before it goes into place. It's making the federal government too big, giving it too much power, and they wanted state government to be still in play. And you can see on the left side, it's what the Federalists wanted the government to be, just one big federal power uniting all the states. And the anti-federalists wanted the state governments to be different, even though they were all under the same country, the same smaller government. And that's all.